Hey everyone, my name is Ben Chaish. I am a wedding and elopement photographer. Today we're going to talk about the best lens that I've used in my entire life, and that is the LEICA 50mm SUMMILUX aspherical. Now, I'm gonna start out with the elephant in the room. This lens is not cheap. In fact, actually at the time of this recording, this lens is $4,700. $4,700. Now, I definitely didn't pay $4,695 for this lens, but after using it for the past few years, it might actually be worth that. As far as focal lengths go, the 50mm might actually be the most classic focal length of all time. As a wedding photographer, I'm often trying to sort of pair classic, nostalgic looks with kind of modern design and present day things that are going on and help kind of marry the two. And the 50mm focal length is something that really helps me do that well. Throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, the 50mm often was the lens that came with most cameras. So to give people something that's really familiar to them and classic feeling, a 50mm is a really great way to do that. 50mm is pretty much the across the board standard focal lengths. It's not necessarily a telephoto lens, it's not necessarily a wide lens. It is a normal standard focal length that kind of works well for everything. When I want some separation from my subjects, I often use this for documentary stuff. So in times where people are maybe exiting a wedding or walking down the aisle or exiting a venue, it's a really good way to isolate my subjects while still providing environmental context around them. So on a wedding day, I'm either shooting a 28 or 35 on this side, and then this 50mm is always on my hip on a holdfast strap, just kind of ready to go. In any given wedding, elopement, event, shoot, anything like that, I'm often shooting anywhere between 40 to 60% of my overall photographs with this lens. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the LEICA M mount system, one of the things that's a little bit different about this lens is it is all manual focus. Every decision I'm making with my own hands, with my own mind to sort of make sure that I'm getting focus, which is one of the reasons why a 50mm f1.4 can be this small. Now I'll say it's a really great feeling lens, and it better be for the amount of money that it costs. It has really smooth focus here. It's got a really nice focusing tab here on the bottom, and the aperture clicks are awesome. The other nice part about it is that to save space, they've actually built the lens hood into the lens itself. So all you have to do is kind of rotate a little bit, pull out, pull back in, so you can either engage or disengage this lens hood. The thing about 50mm lenses is that for maybe the first anywhere from 5 to 6, 7, 8 years of being a photographer, they all sort of felt the same to me outside of sharpness. What made me finally kind of suck it up and buy this lens is that it is incredible, but also has that character that I was looking for. So this setup is the 50mm with a Leica M6 film camera. And one of the things that is most impressive about it is, yes, it looks great on film, but it has something on digital that I've actually never seen in any other lens. When you're editing digital images, there is a sidebar in Lightroom or whatever program you're using that has a panel called lens corrections. Now, the great thing about modern digital technology is that companies can kind of figure out the issues and the things that are wrong with their lenses, and then they can build in little profiles and things like that into the camera. So all you have to do is click a button in a program like Lightroom, and it will automatically fix a lot of those issues for you. That being said, one of the things that most lenses have a big issue with is a thing called chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration is sort of a lens defect that happens mainly when there's a really, really bright source, and then there's a smaller other source next to it that is really, really high contrast. And if you've ever seen it, especially in something like a tree, you see either this like purple fringing or sometimes even red fringing or green fringing around something like that. Now, that being said, it's not that big of a deal, and Lightroom has chromatic aberration clicks for that. But the incredible thing about this lens is I have shot tens of thousands of photos with this and have never seen it. I mean, that's incredible. Any other lens that I have, whether it's a new Zeiss lens or the Canon L series, any of those, usually I still have to go in and kind of click around and get rid of that chromatic aberration in some situations. So the fact that when you actually click the profile in Lightroom for this lens, it barely even does anything. And again, it's something that's usually fairly correctable, but as someone that, again, photographs tens of thousands of photos with this a year, the idea that I don't have to go in and fix that is worth quite a bit to me. That and this lens is the perfect amount of sharp. Some lenses are what I would sort of call like clinically sharp, which is almost annoying, like it's just too sharp, it's not flattering. But this lens has the perfect mix of every time I take a photo with it, it's the perfect amount of sharp, if that can make any sense. It just flatters skin tone, so it's not too sharp, it's not showing you every pore in someone's face or body or anything like that, but it is just the most flattering and beautifully rendering lens that I've ever used. And for a focal length that you're going to use for things like portraits and stuff like that, it is amazing to have a lens that I can rely on so well. I've never actually had a lens that I've felt this way about before. There's been other lenses that I've felt like had really, really great sharpness, but were lacking in character, or lenses that had a lot of character and were lacking in sharpness. But the reason that this one is so special is it just really does have everything. Going to pay a ridiculous premium for anything Leica, but the thing about this is this lens will outlast every other piece of digital technology that I own, and I'm going to be able to use this on almost any camera setup I have moving forward just because of how beautiful it is and how well it renders. This is also the only lens I've ever used that has sort of the perfect amount of sharpness and character and micro contrast that it almost can start to look medium format. I've shot plenty with Zeiss lenses, the Canon L series, and there's just something about this that those other lenses haven't been able to compete with for me. So overall, do I think this lens is actually worth $4,695? I mean, yeah. Again, I got this lens for significantly less than that, as you can often do with buying used lenses. But if I got this stolen or it needed to get replaced somehow, it would be really hard for me not to find a way to buy it again. I talked about it a little bit in my Leica M240 video, but there really is something to be said about having something that is just kind of a cut above the rest and a lot more unique. I don't really know that many people that shoot with a lens of this quality and this caliber, and so to have something that is, again, unique and incredible is another way I can sort of set my work apart. Now, I don't think that anybody is ever going to look at my work and think, oh my gosh, he probably shot that with a almost $5,000 lens. But I think one of the things that can set you apart is going to be subtlety. There are going to be subtle differences in the way that this camera setup and this lens especially renders that, again, are going to be different from everybody else. And whether or not they notice it specifically because of that or not, there is going to be a slight difference, and sometimes that is what can really end up setting you apart. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, please actually give it a like. Send me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if your Nikon, Zeiss, Canon lens or whatever can beat this thing. Maybe we can have an old school battle royale. And then subscribe as well, because I have a ton more videos like this coming up. Actually, I have a huge backlog of these. I've been filming them sort of non-stop the last couple weeks, so they will be rolling out quite a bit in the near future. And if you want to check out this lens, I will drop some links to it and some other cheaper models. And I'll also drop links to other sort of cheaper alternative 50mm lenses that I have used in case you want to look at those. So thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.